This episode of the Driving Safety Show is sponsored by Drivers Alert, celebrating 30 years of helping companies keep their drivers safe. To learn more, visit driversalert.com. Distracted driving, drunk driving, drowsy driving. You want safer roads, and so do we. You're listening to the Driving Safety Show. Hear insights, in-depth analysis, and expert advice from key players in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors who are leading the way in making our roads safer. Are you ready to join us? And now, your host of the Driving Safety Show, Rich Sordahl.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 27 of the Driving Safety Show. This is a very special episode. We're doing things a bit differently this time because today, our guest is right here in studio. His name is Fletcher Cleaves, and he is truly an exemplar for overcoming adversity. On September 10th, 2009, Fletcher was a college freshman playing football on an athletic scholarship. Having just finished football practice, Fletcher and one of his teammates drove to a local restaurant to grab some dinner. It was the last time Fletcher would walk under his own power. On the return trip to campus, a car heading in the opposite direction began veering toward Fletcher's vehicle. The driver was distracted. In fact, Fletcher stated, "You could see the glow of the phone on her face." Attempting to avoid a collision, Fletcher, who was driving, overcorrected. When the spinning and flipping stopped, his car was upside down, and Fletcher had a broken neck. The story, well, it could have ended there. But Fletcher Cleaves is no ordinary man. Instead of giving up, he's approaching his life the way he approached football. Fletcher re-enrolled in school, earned a bachelor's degree in computer science, and now works in IT. He also founded The Sky Is Not the Limit, a nonprofit organization dedicated to inspire, empower, and educate. Fletcher travels around the country raising awareness about the dangers of distracted driving and motivating people to turn hardship into purpose. With that said, please enjoy this very special episode of the Driving Safety Show. Fletcher Cleaves, hey, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, no problem, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, what an honor to have you here in studio. Mm-hmm. So you're from Memphis then, correct?
Born and raised, Memphis, Tennessee.
And great barbecue. And
absolutely. Blues music, barbecue, Bill Street. Those are what people go to all the time, so you can't go wrong.
So you went to high school then in Memphis, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then you were an outstanding, high school athlete in football, and then
some would say.
And then you went to college in Memphis as well, right?
No, I was actually in Jackson, Tennessee, so probably about an hour from Memphis, right outside.
And what university?
Lambuth University.
Okay. All right. And so you got accepted to college, and then the fateful incident that took place that happened that first semester you were in school.
Yeah, it actually happened the first semester, like the first 2 weeks of college. So I had left. We graduated May 12, 2009, and I left like 3 days after graduation to start training because, I wanted to be the best athlete I could be for the upcoming season. And so rest of May, June, July, August, I'm training and everything, then we get in full pads beginning of August, a couple scrimmages, and we get ready for our upcoming game. Coach names me the starting punt returner the week before. I'm excited, I'm hyped up, a true freshman, getting ready to do my thing for the first time on the collegiate level. And 2 weeks into school, my accident happened.
Wow. And so, in what position did you play in football?
Kick return and punt return, what my scholarship was for at Lambuth University.
So leading up to that point in time, what were your dreams? What were you looking to do?
I think I had dreams any young male athlete would have about playing professional sports and just, hanging out with girls and just having a good time, whatever, especially being a freshman in college. But fortunately, my life took a different turn, and now I'm here, inspiring the world.
What, from that moment that the accident took place, what was the rehabilitation process like? What was that? How long did it take, and what did that involve? I'm sure that was that took most of your time, I imagine.
Man, it took all of my time, actually. Right. It was very rigorous. It was so hard. I'm so used to training for football 3 times a day, 3 days, film, weights, all that type of deal. But it's a different type of training when it comes to a disability because not only physical, it's also mental. And so my accident happened September 9th, 2010. And thankfully, I was in such great shape that the doctor, I didn't break anything besides my neck, obviously. I didn't have any scratches or any other injuries. And the doctor was like, there's no need for him to be here. He's not sick. So I was only in the hospital 10 days. which is astonished to hear people with other spinal cord injury. Like when I got to Atlanta, the Shepherd Center, which specializes in spinal cord. So everybody there has a spinal cord or brain injury. And just talking to other people that was like, yeah, I was in the hospital 2 months. I was in the hospital 4 weeks. I was like, I was in the hospital 10 days. I was like, really? People were like, I was in ICU 10 days. I was like, wow. So I'm very thankful that I took football seriously and able to work out a lot.
And so you're now in information technology.
Yes, sir.
How is that career going?
It's going all right. My advisor at the University of Memphis, she told me, do you like math? I was like, yeah, I like math. And she was like, try computer science. I had no idea what it was, what it entailed or anything like that. And by the time I realized that it might not be something I would be interested for a career, she was like, you graduate next semester. I was like, might as well stay doing it, But I enjoy it. I enjoy the company I work for. It's a great environment, great community. It's just, I wouldn't say it's my passion.
Now you've garnered quite a bit of national attention. And you've appeared on ESPN and Game Day, the ESPN Radio. You attended an event for the National Transportation Safety Board in D.C., and then even AT&T featured you in a short film.
Man, that was definitely crazy. One of the better experiences I've had.
What triggered all of this? Was there a tipping point, one moment in time when somebody found your story and decided, hey, this is inspirational. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, as I progressed through my life, my everyday living, I started speaking at football teams and high schools, and AT&T just so happened to be at one of the high schools I was speaking at, and the guy walked up to me and was like, "We got to do something together." I was like, "Sure, no problem, AT&T. I didn't know whatever you want me to do." So he was like, "We'll be in touch." So like a year or two later, he calls me and was like, "Hey, ESPN reached out. They're looking for somebody that's been affected by distracted driving. They prefer to be an athlete." I was like, "Hey, I'm an athlete that's affected by distracted driving." And they was like, "Hey, come on in." So they did the commercial and then kind of took off from there.
Wow. So what about the distracted driver? I mean, do we know who that person was, or is she even aware of what happened? Because you never actually hit, right?
No, we never actually hit. So she was coming head on me and my roommate, Dane Mullins. We were sitting there talking, and it was like, "Fletch, you see that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I see it." And then she was coming, and I just kind of swerved to miss her. And I swerved and hit a guardrail, and she just kept going. So we never actually collided on paper. The incident report was a one-car accident, but she never stopped, which is, I always kind of wonder, like, I know you saw, or you had to have seen or heard or something, But I try not to think about it because you can't cry over spoiled milk. And I'm just thankful that somebody was in the car with me, because where we were, I was in an embankment, and I could have been down there 2 or 3 days before anybody saw me.
Oh. So with your nonprofit organization, The Sky Is Not the Limit, when did you find that?
Say it again one more time.
When did you found that organization?
This past August. So it's been maybe 7-8 months, I'm just love giving back to the community, and people also have been inspired, and I speak around the country, and unfortunately everybody's not able to financially help me get to their school or to their college. So people, just donated. I was like, if you like other people to hear my story who are not financially stable to accommodate me and my, my travel companion, we have a nonprofit, and people just start donating and went out from there, and we give back to the community. We did a backpack drive this past August for over 100 kids in the inner city, and it was phenomenal, man. We had snow cones and bounce houses, and I loved it.
And one of the core parts of this nonprofit organization is you go around the country speaking about the topic of distracted driving, but also motivational in the sense of you're trying to help people overcome adversity, right?
Absolutely, Rich, because, adversity doesn't come when you want it to come. Adversity is not like, "Hey, Rich, I'll be here next Tuesday." It comes whenever they want. It comes when the least expected time, and so everybody goes through situations. I always say in my speeches, we all deal with crappy stuff. If you ask everybody you ever come in contact with, have you ever had a bad day or something crappy happen, they're gonna say absolutely. But it's not what happens to you that defines you; it's how you respond to it. So we all have greatness inside of us. It just takes the right circumstance to bring it out.
And I found a quote you have on your website.
I
think this
really
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hope it's a good one.
It is. I found it like it really. I think it says the whole story. It talks about the confidence and the inspiration that you have and the strength that you have, and really sums up what you're doing. You say, quote, "Everyone has a story. Some are blissful, while others are tragic. Mine, on the other hand, is full of triumph." What comes to mind when you think about that?
Because, like I said, when I was in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Shepherd Center, you hear all these stories about different people and how everybody deals with tragedy different. And people always say, "Man, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I'm so sorry that this happened to you." And I'm like, "Well, I'm still alive, man, so you don't feel sorry for me. I'm the NEP or any sorrow or anything like that. So my story is just full of triumph because now I went from being this, the star athlete to becoming paralyzed to going back to college to graduating in 4 years still with a computer science degree to interning at St. Jude, which is one of the best children's hospital, then to getting a full-time job in IT at AutoZone headquarters in Memphis, then to moving out, then to travel. It's just so many things that I was just doing because I just wanted to do and I just like living life that other people found inspiration in. And I was like, wow, my story is full of triumph. What somebody else told me.
And what kind of venues are you speaking at? So schools, companies?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do high schools, colleges. High school and colleges are my two main ones. In middle schools and companies, I did one for State Farm, insurance agent, and actually did one for a Safe Light Auto Repair, the glass company. Oh yeah, like Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace. Yeah. So they hired me to come out to Ohio and speak at Ohio State, and they were having some safety board meeting, and I just told my story about distracted driving and about overcoming adversity, and they fell in love with it. So I go back there probably once every other year.
How do people typically respond? I'm sure you have some anecdotal stories where at the end of the speech, somebody comes up to you and tells you a story, how you affected them, or I'm sure a lot of times we hear about teenagers complain about their parents using the phone in the car and how that scares them. But
absolutely,
that's just what they're dealing with on a daily basis. So anything that stands out in your mind that you've had some kind of communication with, let's say, after a speech?
Absolutely. The two main stories I could think of. The first one wasn't even after speech. It was after the commercial aired. And this lady emailed me from Canada. And I don't know how she found my email address or how, but she was just like, hey, I just got diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. I was thinking about giving up, and, I knew I didn't want my life to be this way, so I was telling my family just to let me go. But after seeing your commercial and reading your story and seeing what you endured, if you can keep going, then I can keep going. So she kept fighting. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Wow. And another one recently, this past July, I want to say, 2019, this teacher emailed me after a speech in Clarksville, Tennessee. She was saying, hey, we've had a troubled student who's been dealing with drugs and alcohol, in a senior in high school and been missing a lot of class, and he just so happened to be here today. And he came up to us after your speech, and he was crying. He was like, what's going on? He was like, man, after hearing Fletcher's story, I think I want to turn my life around. So I keep in contact with the young man, and it's just phenomenal that something so minute as just me just living my life that I just thought it was everyday activity. I got hurt. Fletcher, what are you going to do now? I guess I'll go back to school. Guess I'll start traveling. Guess I'll get a job. That it's inspiring so many people, and I love it.
And it must be moments like that really keep you going and light your fire.
Absolutely. It was when I say at the beginning of our interview, even though I work in IT and I'm helping, the company thrive and do what it needs to do, I just don't get that fulfillment of hearing those life-changing stories, but helping other people that I hear when I go speak or when I go to safe driving seminars or anything.
Now, on this show, we've interviewed many people who've been affected personally by distracted driving, and they have their version of how they try to raise awareness and get people to think more about their habits behind the wheel. But inevitably, they run into frustration because, we see the stories, right? Mm-hmm. We see what people are doing out there. What do you do personally to try to figure out ways to connect with those out there? How do you get to them? I mean, how do you break through? What is it you do?
A lot of the stories I've come in contact with, I've realized it's triumph that happens to someone they love, or like, hey, my daughter was killed, or, hey, I'm going through this certain situation. And I'm like, hey, I'm a real life example, because these kids that we hear today, we all thought when we were that age we were invincible and, it won't happen to me and those type of things. I'm like, hey, dude, it can happen to you. And it doesn't have to be your fault. Like in my situation, it was not my fault. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. It's just unfortunate circumstance that the ball rolled the way it did. But thankfully, I survived and I'm able to help other people bring awareness and overcome adversity, and just the importance of education and all different aspects that ties into my story.
Now, in your campaign to increase awareness about distracted driving, is there something that you've learned about just people in general, or just something that you would not have known without being involved in this effort to raise awareness? And
absolutely. It was the distracted driving, just the statistics and the information and things of that nature, just how we can't do 2 cognitive skills effectively at the same time. MIT did a study about that. It's impossible for you to do 2 cognitive activities at the same time without one of them suffering. What we can do is the human brain can switch between tasks so fast that we think we're doing them simultaneously, and we actually aren't. And just like things like that,
But when you're giving a presentation to a room full of students, let's say in high school or college, we all know about attention spans, right? People spend very little time focused on one thing. So I imagine that's a challenge too, to reach that group, young people. But what's the one thing you would want a young person to know about maybe either distracted driving or just driving a motor vehicle in general, but they don't really think about being young?
Absolutely. So one thing I think I have going for me, first off, is I'm at the age, I just turned 29 in this past December. So I'm at the age where I'm young enough to be a peer or like a big brother, but I'm old enough where they're kind of listening, especially high school and college. So I joke around and I kind of, play with them on that aspect. But one thing I would tell them that my father told me when I first started driving at 16 is, a car is not a toy. A car is a 2,000, 3,000 pound machine that needs to be operated under full attention when you're driving. So as a driver, you're responsible for everyone in the car. And I kind of break it down just realistically. Like if something happens and you're at fault, like if a passenger dies, you're going to get charged with vehicular homicide. They don't care, you're 16 or 17. They don't want to hear it was an accident. It wasn't my fault. I'm sorry. Like, you're going to face the consequences, dude.
What about your message about overcoming adversity? So we know, you mentioned a little bit about it. I mean, we all have bad days, and sometimes it seems like you just can't do anything right. And, what do you do to motivate people to search for that inner strength when it just seems like nothing's going right?
Absolutely, man. I just try to tell people that this is probably it is your first bad day. It probably won't be your last bad day. But like I said previously, it's not what happens to you. It's how you respond to it. So do you want to be defined by, like for example, I didn't want to be defined by the kid that was in an accident and became paralyzed. Oh, you talking about the guy that played football and became, then that was the end of his story. Oh, poor Fletcher. I want to be, you talking about the kid that was in an accident and went on to do other things and inspire other people. I wanted my legacy not only to continue, but definitely not stop at that point in my life.
And now, because we're both involved in this kind of effort with distracted driving, we know all the statistics. We hear, 9 people a day are losing their lives in distracted driving. It's probably underreported.
Exactly.
Yeah, we know that. Car and Driver came out with an experiment where they found that texting and driving produces slow response times as someone with a blood alcohol level of 0.08, which of course is the legal limit. And then, of course, the studies are showing the financial cost of distracted driving has now surpassed drunk driving.
Yes.
And in many states, I think, if not most now, that's the number one reason for a crash, is someone either using a phone or playing with the radio or doing whatever it is. So given that it's been 10 years now since that fateful event that occurred for you, help us give us some hope. What are you seeing personally that says society's going to turn this around?
I think especially the high schoolers and the college kids are starting to finally understand, because we live in this social media life, where everybody's selfie and everybody's trying to take pictures and everybody's distracted. But one of the things that can help that people don't realize is that the passenger, the driver is responsible for your life. As a passenger, we must learn how to speak up. Like, hey, man, can you pay attention? Like, can you put your phone down, or whatever the case may be? And how easily influenced people are, whether it's younger or older, we are influenced by our peers or people we love. So maybe if somebody tells you, like your daughter or your son, hey, Dad, can you mind paying attention while you're driving? When you're by yourself, you're going to think of her, like, oh, yeah, she did tell me, So the power of influential people in your own life is very strong. So that something like that gives me hope to know that other people are trying to spread my stories. Like, hey, can you put that down? I met a guy 2 weeks ago, and he has a phenomenal story. And just watch this video.
No, what about that guy that says, Fletcher, I've been driving for 25 years. I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I can handle the phone and the wheel. Because there's everybody out there thinks they can do it. It's the other person who's the problem.
Exactly, Rich. So to say that, I say this. I say in my speech all the time. Adults have been driving long as they've been texting, so they think they can do it, and the younger generation have been texting long as they can drive, long as they've been driving, so they think they can do it. So both sides of the field think, oh, I've been driving before you were born. I know what I'm doing. And the younger generation's like, oh, I can text without looking. But I go back to what I said about the MIT study, where your brain can cognitively not do two cognitive skills effectively at the same time. One will suffer. So even though you're driving and you think you're texting, you misspell a word, you're not focused on texting. So or vice versa. So is it really worth having an accident or injuring yourself? A text message, or not even just texting or driving. It could be anything that brings distraction into the driver's situation, where messing with kids in the back seat or trying to pick up a pencil, anything that keeps your eyes off the road. So as I learned, your previous question, there are 3 types of distracted driving. Number 1 is manual, hands off the wheel. Number 2 is cognitive, which is mind off of not on driving, even though you're looking at the road. Like you might be driving and say, did I close the garage door? And boom, you're distracted right there. And last but not least is visual, when your eyes do come off the road. Like kind of, was that my exit? And boom, you're distracted driving.
Yeah, you mentioned talking about just things other than the phone. There was a story recently of somebody who was driving an 18-wheeler and literally was reaching down to grab a coffee mug that had fallen, crashed into traffic that was slowing down the highway and killed I think a 1-year-old and her mother.
See, something like that, man. You want that on your conscience. Like,
I know.
Was that your coffee that important to end a child's life? Just an innocent person's life. So that's what I try to let people know. Like, it's not that serious, dude. Your text message can wait. Your whatever it can wait. I've met people who have not been as fortunate as I have been, who were the causers of the accidents. 2 guys, 1 guy. Hey man, I'm running late for work. Runs into an 18-wheeler, loses control. He kills 2 people. Another guy just leaving a party, distracted, and had been drinking and wasn't paying attention, and unfortunately killed someone else also. And thankfully enough, that wasn't my story, but you don't want, he has to live with that for the rest of his life. Every day, on that day, he has to know that he took someone's father, someone's grandfather, someone's brother away, and it's just not that serious, man.
Now, related to that, one sign of encouragement, we are starting to see people now really pay the consequences for these actions. So you're hearing about stories where, like in this case with the tractor-trailer driver, he was arrested, and people are having to serve jail time now. So do you think that will become a deterrent in this fight?
Absolutely. I think once we get programs for distracted driving and things we have for drunk driving and all those things that's been a problem for years and years and years, but now as technology progresses, distracted driving is becoming more of an issue. So once we start getting harsher penalties and, harsher fines and, things of that nature. So I think it's definitely going to start making a big difference in the community.
Now, I think the issue that we're starting to look at now, at least science, is the area of addiction and how they're starting to recognize that the smartphone might act. There might be more going on here than just people not really caring about paying attention to the road. And so there was one study at the University of Bergen in Norway where they found that 73% of people who misplaced their phone actually experienced some level of anxiety or mild panic. I mean, that to me definitely sounds like an addiction, doesn't it?
Absolutely. When I was in Bristol, Connecticut, at the ESPN headquarters, I did a interview with Bob Lee. Shout out to Bob Lee. Congratulations on your retirement. I did it with the great analyst Bob Lee, and we found this study that said a cell phone is essentially the world's smallest slot machine, and because it's so addictive that people release just all these type of chemicals and things in their mind. When, a text message goes off, you're driving, you're like, ding, like, shit, how do I take it? Do I take it? It is so addictive, especially with the generation we live in today, that we have to be connected to the world. We have to check our email. We have to do a text. We got to be on Snapchat and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. It's so much distractions going on that it can just wait while you're driving.
Yeah, it's so bad that people, they have this experience now where it's called the phantom vibration, like they feel like their phone is actually vibrating and they don't even have their phone on them.
Exactly.
And that's the level of, I think, ingrained nature that this addiction is. Mm-hmm. And talking about the chemical dopamine, this is the same chemical that's released when you have great food or you exercise. Is wonder if you get that runner's high or something, where people feel that same chemical release after they get a positive interaction through social media, which they're finding now is a real thing. So I think the next question really becomes, are we getting close to society recognizing, hey, we got an addiction problem. Let's treat this as such. Let's, because we have one angle, which is legal, and then you have, you can arrest people, you can fine them, you can do PR, you can do the public service announcements and do the things that you're doing, which is wonderful. But if we have an addiction, it's just like saying, hey, don't use drugs. Right? That's not good enough, right?
Right.
I mean, we need to go further on it. So what do you think it's really going to take to nip this in the bud?
Man, I wish I had all the answers, but unfortunately I don't. But I understand that it has become addiction in some people's lives where they need to be on their cell phones, they need to be connected to the world, whether it's driving or, it's just not that important. So I think, like, once you get maybe 2 or 3 distracted driving offenses on your record, it's time to start maybe checking, maybe get community service or some type of intervention or some type of rehab or something like that. Something where we have to get the person to first acknowledge that they have a problem, that they're not paying attention on the road, and then secondly, just help try to correct it. There has been studies that show that social media has been tied into mental health, where people have been experiencing lower mental health when they're always on their phone, always on the go, always they don't get a certain amount of likes that they thought they were going to get on that beach picture in Florida. It was like, is that really what makes you happy? People liking your picture, or not liking your picture, so to speak.
Right. So I guess as we and as we wrap things up, I mean, what is on the horizon for you? What are you looking to do to continue pushing forward with this effort?
Man, as my campaign says on my shirt, the sky's not the limit. I have no limitations. I don't know what's next, but I just know that things have definitely been moving upward. I continuously just speak and just try to encourage people and try to bring awareness to distracted driving and the importance of education. And the reason why I say that is because I was an athlete, and fortunately my parents instilled education inside of me. But, unfortunately for some athletes, education is not a big part of their life. And they go and boom, they blow out a knee and they looking in the mirror and now what am I going to do? I said, well, just pay attention in high school, Now, so I'm thankful that I get the opportunity to just spread my story in so many different avenues with faith-based living, how God played a role in my life, and importance of education and traveling across the country for just leisurely activities, Fortunately got picked up by this travel magazine. I just love traveling, and people have been inspired. This guy in a wheelchair has been to the Dominican Republic, he's been to Rome, he's been to Paris, he's been to all these places, and they want to start like a travel blog, so to speak. So I'm just thankful that my situation is inspiring people on all avenues and all realms of way of living.
Yeah, and it's infectious too, right? I mean, the more you bring it around, I mean, people start absorbing it, and it just continues to carry on. So I feel it here.
Exactly, man. I just love to have fun, man. As my friends and family may know, I just love to act a fool and just have a good time because tomorrow's never promised. I was literally at practice that morning and in ICU that night. So things can change in a blink of an eye. So if you aren't laughing, if you aren't having a good time, I suggest you reevaluate what you're doing, man, and just enjoy life. So
if people want to learn more about what you're doing or donate to your cause, you have a website, right?
Absolutely. FletcherCleaves.com, just my first and last name.com. And, just the Sky's Not the Limit campaign, and you can reach me there and just donate if you want to. And I like to explain what people say, why do you always say the sky's not the limit? The sky's not the limit. Because we've always been told the sky's the limit, anything's possible. But I challenge all of you out there today, how can the sky be the limit when there's footprints on the moon? See? Didn't think about that, did you? See, the sky's not the limit, there's footprints on the moon. And I always say, to me, that meant, when I first heard it, it was like, that means there's no limitation what you can achieve. The only limitations are the ones you impose on yourself.
I'll tell you, that's a great message to leave us with. I guess the one thing that I'm thinking of is when I hear your story, and I did research for this interview, just your whole life is just a testament to basically you're not who you were yesterday, right? Tomorrow, there's the next hour, there's the next minute, and you have a chance. Life doesn't just have to happen to you. You can make it happen yourself.
Absolutely, Rich. Absolutely. Like, I ask people, what can you change about yesterday? It's gone. Might as well just live life to make today a better day, make tomorrow a better tomorrow, and just keep living life, man. And, we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. I'm pretty sure even though I've had to deal with the situation I've dealt with, I'm going to have more bad days to come. There's going to be more adversity. But like I always say, man, it's not what happens to you. It's how you respond to it. Who wants to be that person who was defined by that one instance of that one mistake they made, that one, whatever it may be, that one divorce or, anything. And you just got to keep living life, man, and it continues to go on.
Once you have a great attitude, it definitely is helping me out even for today alone, right?
I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much for being here in the studio. Love what you do, and I hope you get more donations and we can bring more power to your effort. And I hope you only do bigger and better things because we definitely need not just distracted driving, but I think just the message about overcoming adversity, just triumphing and just looking forward to tomorrow and continuing to take on the world and and make your own destiny.
Exactly, man. Only one life to live.
That's exactly right.
One life to live.
Thanks so much, Fletcher.
All right, thank you guys for having me.
Once again, that was Fletcher Cleaves, safe driving advocate, motivational speaker, and founder of the nonprofit organization The Sky Is Not the Limit. Please share this podcast with your family, friends, and coworkers, and help us educate the public about critical driving safety issues. 40,000 people die on America's roads every year, 1.3 million worldwide. That's just unacceptable. Until next time, please drive safely.
You've been listening to the Driving Safety Show. To stay up to date on the latest episodes, visit driversalert.com/driving-safety-podcast. There you can sign up for episode notifications, listen to past episodes, and even request to be a guest on the show. And don't forget, the Driving Safety Show is the show that features the movers and shakers who are working hard to make our roads safer. See you next time.